वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रतिष्ठम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम्.
Having known this, the yogi rises above all meritorious fruit said to accrue from the Vedas, yajnas, austerities, and gifts, and attains the supreme original abode. A yogi is a spiritual seeker who's constantly practicing union with God. So until he reaches it, he doesn't compromise, he doesn't settle for anything less. He is not deluded into settling for lower states. So he understands. You see, the brilliance of this verse is that Vyasa has written it, Krishna is speaking. Vyasa is the one who has codified the Vedas. Both have tremendous respect and regard for the Vedas. And yet, he says, rises above it. He rises above all meritorious fruit said to accrue from the Vedas. The Vedas are supposed to be the highest authority on Brahman, on realization. So when you understand that you have to get beyond the world, you also understand that the Vedas, which are the highest repository of knowledge, also belong to the world, are also part of this illusion. The only difference between spiritual knowledge, the Vedas, and anything else in the world is that other things in the world get you further entangled in the world. This knowledge of Vedanta is referred to as Swapna Simhavat, means it is even just as a lion in the dream is still an integral part of the dream. It has one unique ability, and that is when the lion pounces on you in the dream, what happens? You wake up. So that dream lion has the ability of pushing you to the next plane of consciousness, which is the waking state. Similarly, the Vedas, the knowledge of Vedanta, is referred to as Svapna Simhavat, means like the dream lion, because this knowledge, even though it is part of the illusory world, the waking state of consciousness, it has one unique feature, and that is it has the ability to push you to the state of realization. Only to that extent it has a little more importance than everything else in the world. But having used it to heave yourself up to that state of enlightenment, thereafter you need to discard it. And even while you are pursuing it, even while you are using it, you must understand that it has limited usage. It can get you only up to a heightened state of awareness. Beyond that, you need to set it aside and move over to the fourth plane of consciousness. As long as you are hanging on to it, as long as you are attached to it, realization eludes you. So, here is a person who is totally objective with reference to even that which is most sacred to a spiritual seeker, which is the spiritual path and everything associated with it. When you are objective with reference to that, of course you will be objective with reference to everything else in the world. So, your sadhana, your spiritual pursuit is not polluted by desire at all, and such a person gets what is known as Kaivalya Mukti, realization, liberation, moksha, here and now. You don't settle for post-mortem benefits. You say, whatever it is that I want, I will get it here and now. And if you are determined enough to get it, you will get it straight away. Whereas anything we do, spiritual or material, we get involved in it, we get attached to it, and then thereafter we lose our sense of proportion, we forget where we are, where we are going, what our mission in life is, and everything goes out of the window, and all that remains is our entanglement in it. And that's the pity. Now, what gets you attached? mind. How do you remain objective? Intellect. So you see, wherever you go, whichever part of the Gita, Upanishad, whatever you do, you come back to square one, which is intellect. Now we get to the end of this chapter. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayaha. Now, as is the tradition, the belief is that our study of chapter 8 has not ended, but it has only begun. So to signify that, we will all together chant the first verse of this chapter once. First verse.
Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kim uchyate.
Now, after these 6 days of exposure to this wonderful knowledge of the Gita, I hope you're all inspired. Inspired to continue on the spiritual path. All that Vedanta says is act when inspired. Don't let the law of diminishing intent function. You know what the law of diminishing intent is? Today you'll be all charged up. By the time tomorrow morning comes, if somebody tells you, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, chapter 8, you'll say, huh, what? And all this inspiration has completely gone. So, act when inspired. What must we do to make a difference in our lives? Number one, we need to keep this thought of the higher alive in our systems all the time, which necessitates everyday exposure to these higher values. You have no idea how much you get inspired, motivated, and lifted. Now, I don't mean physically lifted. Your thoughts get uplifted with this daily study. So, follow whatever course of study that appeals to you. Those of you who need a little help, who want something, there are some books and CDs available on specific chapters of the Gita, so you can go step by step from one chapter to the other. Then, for the benefit of those of you who have questions, see, when you study, a natural consequence of this is questions will come to your mind. Unfortunately, an interaction like this does not allow for questions because there are just too many people. So the weekly classes that we have every Wednesday evening at Prempuri Ashram, every Tuesday evening at National College Bandra, and every Sunday morning, which is starting tomorrow, at Prabhadevi. The details are in the brochure given to you. This allows for questioning and interaction. So the questions that you have can get answered.